The $65 billion deception. How Berni Мэдофф fooled the world. Bernard Lawrence Madoff, born on April 29, 1938, in Queens, New York City, was a name destined to be remembered in both financial brilliance and moral controversy. The son of Ralph and Sylvia Madoff, Bernard grew up in a middle-class Jewish family, where his father worked in finance and his mother ran a small brokerage. Despite these modest beginnings, Madoff would rise to unimaginable heights in the financial world, leaving behind a legacy both fascinating and devastating. Madoff's journey began in the neighborhoods of Queens, where he displayed an early knack for leadership and ambition. He attended Far Rockaway High School and later pursued political science at Hofstra University. Graduating in 1960, it was during his college years that he married Ruth Alpern, a union that would endure through every triumph and tribulation. Ruth, a dedicated homemaker and later an active partner in Berni's ventures, stood as a silent witness to his meteoric rise and catastrophic fall. In 1960, with a mere $5,000 saved from lifeguarding and installing sprinkler systems, Madoff founded Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities, LLC. Initially a penny stock trader, he rapidly gained a reputation for reliability and success. By the 1980s, his firm was handling billions, pioneering electronic trading systems that revolutionized the industry. The Nasdaq Stock Exchange, where he served as chairman, bore witness to his ingenuity and influence. Madoff's life of opulence stood in sharp contrast to his humble beginnings. His Manhattan penthouse, luxurious Hamptons estate and properties in Palm Beach and the French Riviera were adorned with the finest amenities money could buy. Private jets, yachts and chauffeured cars were standard fare, yet beneath this veneer of success lay a sinister truth. His wealth was built on a colossal Ponzi scheme that would shatter lives and tarnish reputations. The Ponzi scheme, a fraudulent investment operation paying returns to earlier investors with capital from newer ones, became Madoff's dark legacy. For decades he deceived thousands of clients, including celebrities, charitable organizations, and ordinary families, promising steady returns that were too good to be true. By the time of his arrest in December 2008, the scheme's losses were estimated at $65 billion, making it the largest financial fraud in U.S. history. Madoff's duality was striking. On one hand, he was a charming and composed businessman, deeply admired by peers. On the other, he was manipulative, secretive, and devoid of empathy for the victims of his fraud. Behind closed doors, Madoff was known for his sharp temper and impatience, traits at odds with his public image of calm professionalism. While his demeanor was not overtly abusive, many former employees described him as demanding and difficult to please. Few knew of the personal struggles behind Madoff's polished facade. He had two sons, Mark and Andrew, both of whom worked for the family firm. The scandal irrevocably fractured the family, leading to Mark's tragic suicide in 2010 and Andrew's death from lymphoma in 2014. Ruth, though never formally charged, became a pariah, living out her days in relative obscurity. Madoff's personal life was not without scandal. While no concrete evidence of extramarital affairs surfaced, rumors abounded, fueled by his extravagant lifestyle and frequent travels. He visited dozens of countries under the guise of business, but his lavish expenditures often drew suspicion. His belief system appeared grounded in pragmatism rather than spirituality, and he seldom spoke of religion, though he maintained cultural ties to his Jewish heritage. Rarely discussed are Madoff's contributions to legitimate causes. He donated generously to hospitals, educational institutions, and arts programs, often under the radar. These acts of philanthropy, however, were later overshadowed by the revelations of his deceit. In prison, Madoff reportedly expressed remorse, claiming he had started the scheme during a downturn and never intended it to spiral out of control. However, critics argue that his remorse was shallow, given the scale of the devastation he caused. He died on April 14, 2021, at the Federal Medical Center in Butner, North Carolina, from chronic kidney disease and other ailments. The extent of Madoff's lavish lifestyle included not only his real estate and transportation but also his day-to-day luxuries. He employed a significant staff to maintain his properties, including personal chefs, housekeepers and chauffeurs. His health was monitored by private doctors, and he spared no expense on personal comfort. The facilities at his properties featured heated pools, expansive wine cellars, and state-of-the-art security systems. Highlighting his desire for both luxury and control, Madoff traveled extensively, often to Europe, Asia and the Caribbean, under the guise of business ventures. His true purpose often remained ambiguous, but his visits to financial hubs suggested a relentless pursuit of new investors for his scheme. Despite these travels, he was not known for adventurous leisure activities, preferring controlled environments where he could maintain his polished image. One of the most astonishing aspects of Madoff's operation was his ability to convince even the most skeptical investors. By carefully cultivating an air of exclusivity and trust, he attracted clients ranging from Hollywood elites to international banks. His scheme's complexity, involving fabricated trading records and layers of obfuscation, baffled even seasoned financial experts. Books like The Wizard of Lies by Diana B. Enriquez detail the meticulous planning that enabled Madoff to evade detection for decades. Madoff's appearance was often described as unremarkable. With an average build, graying hair, and a measured demeanor, this understated presentation, combined with his articulate speech and knowledge of finance, disarmed those who might have questioned his integrity. He spoke fluent English and had a basic understanding of French and Hebrew, which he used sparingly in business settings to build rapport with international clients. His descendants' lives remain a subject of fascination and sorrow. Mark and Andrew's deaths left Ruth as the only surviving member of the immediate family. Madoff's grandchildren have largely stayed out of the public eye, their lives forever shadowed by the family name. Extended relatives, some of whom were also affected by the scandal, have distanced themselves, many choosing to reside outside the US. 5 rare and surprising facts about Berni Мэдофф. Madoff was a major donor to numerous charitable causes, using his ill-gotten wealth to fund scholarships and medical research. He personally wrote holiday cards to many of his clients, maintaining an illusion of warmth and trustworthiness. He was once considered a pioneer of electronic trading, with innovations that are still used today. Madoff's favorite leisure activity was fishing, a hobby he indulged in at his Montauk beach house. Despite his infamy, Madoff reportedly mentored younger inmates in prison, teaching them financial literacy. Berni Madoff's story has inspired numerous documentaries and films, including the 2017 HBO miniseries The Wizard of Lies starring Robert De Niro. His legacy is a cautionary tale of unchecked ambition, moral compromise, and the devastating consequences of deceit. In the end, his wealth and influence could not shield him from the truth, nor could they erase the pain inflicted on countless victims. The name Berni Мэдофф will forever evoke both awe and condemnation, a reminder of humanity's capacity for both brilliance and betrayal. The most significant reasons that made Berni Мэдофф the biggest financial scammer in history are rooted in a combination of systemic failures, his own manipulative genius, and the allure of greed. Here are the pivotal factors: exploiting trust and exclusivity. Madoff cultivated an image of trustworthiness and exclusivity, offering investments to select individuals and institutions. This exclusivity, combined with consistent but falsified returns, created a facade of reliability. Clients were made to feel privileged to be part of his circle, which discouraged scrutiny. Complexity and lack of transparency. The fraudulent nature of Madoff's scheme was obscured by complex financial jargon and fabricated trading records. His firm's operations were handled in secrecy, with only a handful of trusted employees aware of the scheme. This opacity deterred outsiders from questioning his methods. Regulatory failures. Despite multiple warnings and red flags raised by analysts like Harry Markopolos, regulatory agencies such as the SEC failed to act decisively. Madoff exploited the lack of rigorous oversight to perpetuate his scheme for decades. The inability of regulators to comprehend or investigate the scale of his fraud was a critical enabler. Reputation and position. In the industry as a former Nasdaq chairman and a respected figure in financial circles, Madoff's reputation acted as a shield against suspicion. His involvement in philanthropy and innovations in electronic trading further cemented his credibility, making it nearly unthinkable for many to doubt his integrity. Greed and psychological manipulation. Madoff preyed on human greed and the fear of missing out. By delivering steady returns during times of market volatility, he reinforced the perception of his strategy's invincibility. Investors who questioned his methods were often met with plausible explanations or reassurances, further deepening their reliance on his services. Market conditions and timing. Madoff's scheme thrived during periods of economic stability when fewer investors sought to withdraw funds. However, the 2008 financial crisis triggered mass withdrawals, exposing the unsustainable nature of his operation. Until then, the cyclical flow of new investments masked the underlying fraud. Lack of independent auditing. Madoff used a small accounting firm with limited resources to handle his audits, avoiding scrutiny by major financial auditors. This lack of oversight allowed him to fabricate statements and reports without fear of exposure. Manipulation of relationships. Madoff was a master manipulator of personal relationships. He built deep ties with his clients, often interacting with them personally. This personal touch disarmed skepticism and made it emotionally difficult for victims to question him, even when doubts arose. The combination of these factors, his strategic genius, systemic loopholes, and the psychological vulnerabilities of his victims, enabled Berni Мэдофф to orchestrate the largest financial fraud in history. His story serves as a stark reminder of the need for vigilance, transparency, and robust regulatory frameworks in the financial industry. Berni Мэдофф did not retain the $65 billion he scammed. Here's why. Illusion of wealth. The $65 billion figure represented the supposed value of client accounts as shown on falsified statements. In reality, much of that wealth never existed. Madoff's Ponzi scheme paid earlier investors with money from newer investors, not from legitimate returns on investment. The actual amount of money he took in from investors is estimated to be around $17 minus $20 billion. Asset seizures. After Madoff's arrest in 2008, federal authorities seized his personal and corporate assets, including properties, bank accounts, and luxury items. These assets were liquidated to recover funds for his victims. Assets included his Manhattan penthouse, Hamptons estate, Palm Beach property, and other valuables, such as art collections, yachts, and jewelry. His wife, Ruth Madoff, agreed to forfeit most of her assets, keeping only $2.50 million to live on. Victim compensation efforts. A court-appointed trustee, Irving Picard, has worked to recover funds for Madoff's victims. Picard has clawed back over $14 billion through lawsuits and settlements, redistributing it to victims. This represents a significant portion of the real money invested in the scheme, though not all victims have been made whole. Remaining liabilities. Madoff's scheme caused catastrophic losses for thousands of individuals, families, charities, and institutions. Even with the recovered funds, many victims have not recovered their full investments, let alone the fictitious profits promised. Madoff's personal finances. In prison. After his conviction, Madoff lived the rest of his life in prison, where he had no access to any assets. He reportedly expressed regret for the pain he caused, but maintained that he initially did not intend for the scheme to grow to such proportions. In conclusion, Berni Мэдофф did not retain the $65 billion, as much of it was an illusion created by fabricated financial statements. The real funds he stole were largely recovered, liquidated, or redistributed, though not all victims were fully compensated. Madoff died in prison in 2021, leaving behind no trace of his ill-gotten wealth.